Like you, the Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, you're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Word on Wealth. So good to have you along today. And thank you very much for all the input that we've been getting from our listeners. They talk about when the Ken Pecus, it should be the Ken Pecus show, but the Word on Wealth with Ken Pecus, when it is on, people really like to listen. So we have today, which is our regular, our partner in my show on Wednesdays here on the Word on Wealth. We have Ken Pecus, who is a real estate expert. This guy is the founder of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. Every time I talk to my kids about real estate, they go, "Yes, I'm going to call Ken. We're going to get, on his calendar to talk to him about investing in real property." And I have them listen to the show, and it's always really successful. So, Ken, so glad to have you on today. How you doing, man?
Great. It's August. It's August 2nd. It changes my message every morning. And so I'm aware of the day sometimes. I'm like, wait, I just said it's Wednesday, August 2nd. Wasn't it just New Year's?
Yes.
I mean,
I know. And the days weren't the days supposed to be getting longer? They're getting shorter again. And yeah,
it's getting shorter. But August is vacation month. So late in the month, I always go on vacation every month. So August is also a very, very good month. I like that.
Very exciting. I love it. Yeah, that's the thing. When you live in a place where you can, people come to visit, and then when you leave to go visit somewhere else, it's a great thing. And then you come home and it's a great thing. It's a good thing.
Come home. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going home to work. I'm going home to work in San Diego. Yeah. Rough life.
So cool. I know we just came home from, what was it? We are in Heber City, Utah, which is one of the right next to Heber. It's this valley. It's called the Heber Valley. And then there's a place called Eden, like the Garden of Eden, and they named it appropriately. It's just this beautiful place. We're up there, family reunion for my wife's side of the family. And it's like the first day.
Oh, very cool.
First day we rented side by sides. My son has one, and then we rented 3 other ones and went, a bunch of us anyway, we went up in the mountains and on these the side-by-sides, the 4-seater and 2-seater side-by-sides, went all over the place for like 5 or 6 hours. With the little kids were in their car seats in the back of these off-road vehicles sleeping. That's my son, my grandchildren are very used to being bounced around and all that stuff. So it's super, super fun. And then we were wake surfing all day.
Airline.
What's that?
I sleep the best in airlines when there's turbulence. When there's turbulence in the air and everybody's like freaked out, that's when I sleep the best. So I get the kids off-road sleep. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, to me, it's true. I want to be behind the wheel or I'm going to go to sleep. Yeah, I kind of like being jostled and that's, I don't know, I just love that. I can sleep on boats. I can sleep while I'm driving. All kinds of things.
Love it, love it, love it.
Hey, Ken, so good to have you. What do we want to do the new feature as the second segment? Because I think we probably should do it now.
Section because it totally generated my thoughts for the call today. Which is really cool.
Do that. Okay. So the new feature. We've got each week we feature at the beginning of our show the cheapest and the most expensive sales in San Diego County. And that is presented by Ken and sponsored by Ken of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty.
Can we change it from cheapest to the most affordable, the best deal, something like that? Let's change it from cheapest.
Okay, so most affordable to most expensive.
Yeah.
Least expensive to most expensive.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that works good. So the least expensive sale in this last week was another manufactured home, but get this one. It was in Fallbrook. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,100 square foot place. I looked at the pictures. I'd like to show it to you. It looked actually really cute. And it sold for $70,000. Yes, you can buy property in San Diego County for $70,000. So there you go. Don't tell me you can't buy something somewhere, because even that $70,000 manufactured home at some point was probably worth 25 or 20, and it's gone up in value. So there's there. So the cheapest house actually sold in Borrego Springs. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Another one that was really, really quite pretty. It's 1,765 square feet, and it closed escrow at $265,000. And so, yeah,
Wow.
it's a full-fledged house, really quite nice. In fact, an agent on my team closed a house in Borrego 2 weeks ago, and it was about the same kind of price point, and so totally affordable. So, if you have flexibility and like to live in the desert and have that kind of feel, there you go. Under 300,000.
That's
And
good. It's beautiful out
and
there. Borrego Springs is really, they've done a nice
yeah,
job out there. Yeah, I've always loved going out there and visiting.
no, it's totally wonderful. And then the cheapest condo sold in San Marcos, and it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with 1,030 square feet, and it sold for $361,150. I think the $150 was very important, but $361,150. So,
Okay.
so there you go. Those were the most affordable end of San Diego County in this past week.
Okay.
So all good. Then we flip to the
2 minutes.
and I know last week we were kind of joking about the $11 million one that sold on the bluffs above Encinitas.
Yeah.
Well, this one today was actually sold in Del Mar. So
Okay.
it was a 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath house on the bluff. It's on oceanfront. That's the street in Del Mar. So it's overlooking the Blue Pacific. It was 2,885 square feet. And it's actually kind of dense there. There's a number of houses all together, and the lot is just under 4,000. So the lot was only 3,850
wow.
square feet. So
Wow.
we're talking about a pretty built-up house on a small lot.
Yeah.
And ready for this?
Okay.
It closed escrow at 14 million. 14.
Wow.
That's 1 4 and 6 zeros after that for a 2,885
Not a minute.
on a less than 4,000 square foot lot. There you go. That is quite the number on that.
That's wild.
But I will tell you that they started selling it last year, and they put it on the market in June. And originally they put it on the market at 17,800,000. And so gradually it's come down, but still, see, you just wait it out, 14 million.
You just wait it out. It comes down 10%, saves you $1.4 million. There you go, man. That's,
There you
actually,
go.
no, came down 20%.
20%.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always love talking about that. It just kind of gives you a comparison. I mean, and that's where we're going to continue on our discussion too, is like, there's all different areas that people live, and people live in all different areas, super wealthy, non-wealthy. I mean, we have all kinds. And then specifically coming up next, we're going to talk about like investing in those type of properties and how that works. Is this the best one? Is this the best one? We're going to be talking about that, continuing as we are here with Ken Pecus here on the Word on Wealth. His number is 619-977-8419.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christians just don't understand that the money they save for retirement usually helps fund the abortion industry and other liberal anti-family causes. But did you know that with just a few minutes of your time, we can screen and clean your investments at no cost to you? It's absolutely complimentary. Just go to the website right now, download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing. It's free as well. You deserve to know the truth as the investor. Then the choice is yours. You can keep doing what you're doing, or you can line up your investments and life savings with your beliefs. We are fiduciary investment advisors. You can feel good about investing with confidence. So learn more now. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com or call me at 931-RETIRED. Your free book is waiting for you. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com and be sure that you listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Call.
Gary, your team at GQ Law are experts at solving IRS and state tax problems. Talk about that.
When people have a tax problem, it tends to really stress them out. And one of the things we've been able to do is figure out how to resolve tax problems. One thing we might be doing is setting up a payment plan or getting a collection delay, maybe getting a determination that the person shouldn't have to pay the taxes at all. We do offers and compromise. We do audit reconsiderations. And one of the things that's a really powerful tool that some people don't recognize is sometimes bankruptcy can be used to actually eliminate taxes when there's certain conditions of the code that are met. So we can do all kinds of things. After we analyze your situation, we can figure out what's available, discuss your options, and figure out which ones to implement, what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take. And we can get people out from under all kinds of tax problems so they can sleep again. That's our goal.
Request your free initial consultation. GQLaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQLaw.com.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecus and the Pecus Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional
Hear about Trump?
knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, What's that? and South Bay region.
You hear about Trump?
Well, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're lying.
All right. Welcome to The Word on Wealth. We're so happy to have you along with us today. Today is our Super Wednesday where we have Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group. Ken is a friend of mine. He has helped me personally. He's helped my family and done an excellent job. I have not recommended any real estate agent higher than I recommend Ken Pecus and his group. He did a really good job. I mean, this is like, and Ken's not asking me to do this. I love that he's a partner on my show. I love that he comes on Wednesday, and it just makes it just a super fun show for me. I get to learn a lot from Ken, and he's helped my family. And I just love that. I love that about him. And I appreciate all that we get to pick his brain, and we could do that today. So we've got him right to the top of the hour. Do not hesitate to call. We've got lines open. It's 888-344-1170. I would love to hear your questions of Ken, whether it's going to be about commercial property or buying property for, rental purposes or personal residences. How much will it take to get into, real property? Those are the things we're addressing on today's show. And I'd love to hear from you. 888-344-1170. Call in, be a part of this show. We are talking about, so we went through our new feature, the least expensive home to the most expensive homes in San Diego County, which is always super fun because we have such a massive diversity in one county from, all the way just last week from 70,000 to 14 million different homes. People live in them. People enjoy them. People are probably just as happy in one house or the other. It just depends on where you are in life and lifestyle and all that. So I love to have that tremendous diversity in this place that we live. Okay. So Ken, I don't know if you want to do any follow-up on that, but I know my main question, what I want you to get into is, it really comes up a lot. Is like, are there better areas and types of property to invest in and then others? Like, is La Jolla better than City Heights, or Rancho Bernardo better than El Cajon, or San Diego better than the Palms? But there's just a lot of questions like that, because like I was driving around the other day with my wife, and we're going and doing these. We were doing some volunteer work and dropping some stuff off, and we're looking at houses going, hey, that's a duplex. There's a tri, there's a quad there. And it's not near our home, but they're places that we know about, are very familiar with. And we're thinking like, where is a good place to invest in property? And, is it in City Heights? Is it in La Jolla? What works out? So I know you have a lot of thoughts on that. And that's where we want to spend a lot of the rest of our show. And as callers call in, is help us understand that type of mentality.
Got it. No, it's great. And by the way, you were just talking about, how diverse San Diego was. A lot of people don't know it, but San Diego County has a greater population than 29 full states. So think about that. Wow. So when we think of ourselves as the small city because we're next to LA, and we think of New York or whatever, but San Diego County has actually got more population than 29 full states. Keep that in your mind. So that's why there's a lot of diversity and opportunity here.
Wow.
So let's go back to that one I was just talking about, 14 million. And it struck me as I was reading the details on that property. They talked about, hey, we've got this new sound system, we've got this new thing, whatever. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm not hearing a lot. So I decided to go look back and see when it sold last. And unless the records were wrong, I'm using my own records here, so I can't 100% validate this, but maybe 99.99. I found a sale on the same property back in October 1997, and it sold for $3,100,000. And in the midst between that time and now, I found it for rent, and I was able to look at the pictures. And as I looked at the pictures, I didn't see a whole lot different about the property. Some styles changed, something, whatever, but it was effectively, in my mind, kind of the same property, other than whatever they did. So I was like, 3,100,000 in 1997. Well, that would have been really kind of astronomical in my brain. And the reason I was thinking that is because the year after, in 1998, I sold my own first house I ever bought, and I closed that house for $227,000. And so I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, that was $3,100,000, and I sold my house in North Park for $227,000. So what is my house in North Park worth today? Well, my house in North Park worth today is probably somewhere between $1,450,000 and $1,500,000. And so I was just, it's the engineer in me. I just wanted to do some numbers. And I said, so if I had bought my house, so if I bought my house in North Park at $1,450,000 today, or I sold it at $1,450,000 today, and I had bought it for $227,000, it would have gone up approximately 6.38 times, 600%. It would have gone up 600%. And so I looked back on this property that we're talking about, and I did the numbers, and it was 4.1%. So my house in North Park actually appreciated at a much higher rate, almost 50% higher than this property in La Jolla. And I'm like, that's really interesting. And so it kind of took me back to some of the other conversations I had with other clients when we're looking at how to buy and sell property and how you think about it. And the reality is, let's say in 1997, you weren't really buying a home to live in. You had $3 million to invest. And the collective wisdom said, oh, geez, if you buy a house that's right on the sand, it's just going to go crazy. It's the best. It's the one that's going to appreciate the most. It's the one that's going to have the best gain, et cetera, whatever, take your pick. And when I bought my house in North Park back then, let me tell you, North Park is gentrified. That was back in 1992. It had not even come halfway back yet. It was pretty rough, but it's what I could, it's what a young guy could afford, and on my salary back then, and that's what I bought. So I could have theoretically bought 14 of my houses in North Park. And
Okay.
you know what? As you got through 1992, 93, or 1997, I could have bought 14 houses because there's a lot of houses for sale in North Park. So from an investment standpoint, if I took that same $3 million that I had back then in 1997 and instead invested it in 14 different single family houses, or better yet, had I invested it in maybe 14 or 13 multi-units like duplexes or triplexes or some factor of that, more than likely my return on that side of the investment and in North Park would have been substantially greater than Del Mar with this house sold, which
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of
intuitively,
sense.
yeah, it's so just intuitively you're like, but it's on the sand, right? But you just have to kind of think this through. So that's kind of what's driving my thought process about, how people think about it. It's the same thing I think we talked on the previous show when I've had clients that, are holding on to houses as rental property in high-end neighborhoods such as Coronado or La Jolla. And the answers are, well, it's Coronado property. It'll never go down. Or it's La Jolla property. Or, you can only have La Jolla property. It comes down to what people are trying to do with their investment. I get it. If you want to live there, that's where you're wanting to raise your family, the schools, everything you're thinking about. If that's your mindset, absolutely, you buy the best piece of dirt you want to live in, and you raise your family and you do what you want. But if you're looking strictly for appreciation and return, you should probably take a step back and think about what the money is going to buy you, how much the money is going to buy you, and what it's not in the past shows we've talked about the rent, right? The rent on the structures on the property. Here I'm talking about a straight appreciation comparison. So it's not necessarily you go to the coast and do the best. So that's the first lesson I want to bring out there.
Interesting. So it's more like, yeah, and that makes sense, but it makes sense the way you describe it, but I would not have thought that. Just because, if it's in North Park and values are what they are, I would have thought that North Park wouldn't have had as quick of appreciation. I would think that as you get closer and closer to the coast where things are worth more and more money, that it would be a greater annual appreciation, but that's clearly not the case. Clearly not the case.
Yeah, it's not. In fact, I didn't do any further investigation, but I am fairly certain if I had taken that same context and put it into a place that was actually even had a less expensive price per square foot than North Park. Let's say I put it out at City Heights or something like that. Yeah. I bet you my return for money would have been even better. And
interesting. Another
way to think about it is, I know you have a lot of listeners. We have a lot of listeners that do financials, like when you have Anthony Wright on Thursdays. You guys talk a lot of stocks, securities. So another way to look at this is why people invest in small caps versus big caps, right? Mm-hmm. Because you invest in the smaller companies because their growth opportunities are greater, and whereas the big cap companies or the mega companies, they're solid, they're rock solid, they have a consistent return of price. Mm-hmm. But for Apple to go up 10%, it's pretty tough right now. Apple might go up, 1% in a certain amount of time. But for a small cap company, for it to go up 1% or 2% or 3% is much easier because it's smaller. So it's kind of the same thing. The entry level into some of these other markets there are much easier for so many people. So when you talk about entry level, that tends to move up faster in my mind. And this is just a real life example.
And it's interesting that, we have to do the contrast, kind of a contrast between, Anthony Wright on Thursday talking about money and investments and all that. And then we take real property, and not a lot of people, consider real property as like an investment with a stock and bond or mutual fund. But then it's the same analysis. I mean, there's the in-depth analysis and the reasons for purchasing this type of property, that type of property. It's a very similar thought process. You guys, thanks for being along with us today. We've got Ken Pecus right to the top of the hour. His direct line is 619-977-8419. Any questions regarding real property, whether it's single unit, multi-unit, live there, rent it. You can see he knows what he's talking about. His He and his team are phenomenal. When you work with them, they're great to work with. They're very responsive. I recommend if you have any questions about, I want to get into real property, I would like to get into investing in real property, those are the questions that Ken that's what he does. Ken loves this stuff. And we love that he loves it because he shares it with us and you, and he helps you make money in real estate. 619-977-8419. All right. When we come back after a really brief break, I'm going to ask Ken some other questions about, we're talking about investing in different properties. Is it better to be in a La Jolla property or City Heights property? And we're just doing that based on the base prices of homes. I mean, we got to face it. We got one neighborhood costs a certain amount, another neighborhood costs a certain amount. And I want to talk to Ken a little bit more about that, about comparing different neighborhoods and what do you do? Do you buy duplexes in this area or single family in this area or duplex? But Ken's got all that. We're going to be talking about it. I want you to be part of the show and ask the questions that you have specifically about your situations. 888-344-1170. If you have your own guy to do real estate, that's terrific. If you don't, Ken should be your guy. 619-977-8419. All right, coming up next right here on the Word on Wealth, we got more of Ken Pecus, founder of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. Be a part of the show. 888-344-1170. Coming up, more of Ken Pecus, the Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855.
You're lying.
Welcome to the Word on Wealth. We're here on our magic day where we've got Ken Pecus. He is our real estate magician. The guy is talking about all kinds of great things. This is reality. Ken does this every day. He has done it for a long time. And he's got a great team around San Diego County to help you figure out what your real estate investment portfolio should look like and where you want to live. And we are continuing our conversation. Ken, let's keep going on that conversation. I really like you're saying that there's a mindset. Are you going to live there? Are you going to invest there? And it's like people have kind of trouble, I think, getting into that mindset. When I talk to people about, okay, you've inherited money, what do you want to do with it? And it's like, I don't know. I haven't had this much money before. I think I want to put it in something secure, like a T-bill or something. And I say, well, I'm not a financial advisor, but that's not going to give you much money. It's really secure, but there might be a better way to go. I want you to talk to Ken about if you're comfortable with real property. Have you made money in real property? Is this money from your dad that you just inherited? Is that from real property? Maybe you should kind of take a lesson on that. So we're going to keep going on that. So let's continue our conversation about the, kind of what's the better area to buy in and compare them.
Right. Okay. So I think once again, it comes down to what your motivation is if you're going to live. So let's just take it away from owner occupied. So let's just say, because you have different constraints about that, because when you're going to owner occupy a property, it really comes down to what your ability to pay is for what kind of lifestyle you want to live. And that's kind of a little bit of a separate discussion. You might want to raise your kids in Rancho Bernardo, but the reality is you only have the money to buy a house in Escondido zip codes, and so you approach it differently if that's where your money is,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in this particular case, the first thing you're always going to do is you're always going to figure out what your budget is. You're going to have to figure out how much money it is that you want to invest, and then from there, we're going to eliminate a lot of places, or we might not eliminate a lot if you have a significant portion of capital to invest. But from there, we kind of go on to what we were talking before. So you're going to have to decide whether you're looking at a house, condo, or multi-unit. But for all of them, it still comes down to where those individual properties are placed within the smaller micro neighborhoods. Because let's take Carlsbad. So Carlsbad, for instance, that's a city Carlsbad, but there are so many different neighborhoods within Carlsbad. You can go west of 5, you can go to Arviara, you can go a little bit farther northeast in Carlsbad. There's just so many different kind of concepts. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a property that fits the environment for wherever you're buying a property. So the first thing that's really important to do and to consider if you're really looking for investment, you're really looking for appreciation, and you want to be able to liquidate that property when it's convenient in the surest possible manner for the highest price, make sure the property fits into the environment that it's sitting in. And what I mean by that is,
okay. Yeah. Explain what that means.
So what I mean by that?
Yeah, make sure that the property's not kind of an anomaly. You drive down the street and go, whoa, that one's really different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Don't be buying the biggest property on the street. Don't be buying the oddest. Don't be buying the most interesting architecture on the street unless that interesting architecture is what, absolutely everybody would want for the last 50 years. And good luck doing that because you just never know. Tastes change, right?
Interesting. So I guess an example of that is my brother lived in a place it was in Mira Mesa. Houses are pretty typical in Mira Mesa. They're 14 to 12 to 1800 square feet, and you have the two levels, this flat, whatever. There's kind of a standard, and then right across the street from my brother was the house was 2 full stories. It was built out about as big as you can get on the property. The landscaping was like completely different. It's like you drive down the street and go, wow, that's crazy. I mean, block walls and all this kind of stuff. And it actually was it was a retired couple, and they just kept building on and building on and building. And it did not fit in the neighborhood at all. It's like it should have been moved and put into Scripps Ranch, but that's the way they built this thing. It was very interesting.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to have, in my opinion, if you're just buying for investment. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have 17 kids and you need to keep expanding, I get it. That's a totally different subject.
Mhm.
But if you're just buying something for investment, you want to have it when you're ready to sell. You want to make sure it's going to appeal to the highest buyer pool, and the highest buyer pool in that Mira Mesa neighborhood you're talking about is going to be 12 to 1,600 square foot houses, because that's where people can afford. That's what the majority of houses there are. And that is what will sell when you need to sell. And it's one of the few times you're hearing somebody tell you it's okay to be like the rest. Everybody says
Yes.
you need to stand out, you need to be the best, you need to do whatever. And what I think the best thing is that you are the product that a micro market is being sought after for the most number of people. So if you're in La Jolla, for instance, we can move, we can do the same thing. Or if you're in Coronado, let me just use Coronado because I was just there looking at property today. The absolute biggest buyer segment in Coronado right now is single family houses between 2 million and 3.3 million. That little spot is, if you have a house, and we're talking standard house, if you have a house that just meets 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, has a nice little yard, has a garage, it's in good shape, and is not, it doesn't have to be spectacular. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be 5,000 square feet. If it's like 2,000 square feet, something like that, or 2,200, you have a ton of buyers. There's a lot nicer or more grand houses in Coronado. There's things that are houses that are at 4.5 million, 5.5 million, 6.5 million. This property that's at 1.5 million, but because of where that property is, it's not appealing to a lot of people. But if you've got something in that target zone, and because if you buy it now in the target zone, chances are, unless you do something substantially different to it, it'll always remain in the target zone no matter what it is. Because the same 2 million to 3.3 million, that target zone used to be 500 to 800,000, and that's what used to sell. It just kind of moves. It's a high tide. It's a tide that moves up all the boats at the same time. So that's a way to look at it. And the same thing could go in North Park. Right now, if you go into North Park, I'm telling you, if you put if you have a nice little house on the market that is somewhere between 900 and $1.4 million or $1.5 million in, say, Morley Field or Burlingame or Altadena or the Montclair area, there's so many districts in North Park. You have a ton of people that want it. There $2.5 million houses in North Park, 3 million. There are. Are there $600,000 houses in North Park? There are. But the big pot of buyers are between 900 to $1.4 million. So wherever you invest, you take your pick. You take your pick, whether it's going to be La Mesa, whether it's going to be Rancho Bernardo, whatever. Wherever you invest, try to invest in a pool. In San Carlos. San Carlos is like an Allied Gardens.
2 minutes.
And there's money in the bank because the school system is so good. People love it. The neighborhoods are awesome. You always have such a high demand for those neighborhoods in Del Cerro. So pick what, I don't want to say middle America, but what middle of that particular micro market is selling. And no matter when you go to resell it, you'll probably still be in that little sweet spot.
Interesting. Okay. So that makes sense. So, okay, I got to give you guys, Ken knows what he's talking about. It's really clear by having him on the show with us and talking about it. His number is 619-977-8419. I would love to hear, I'd love to get more texts from Ken saying, Gary, so-and-so called. He didn't call into the show, but he called me and I'm meeting with him next week. And we're going to be talking about getting his portfolio beefed up a little bit, or going to get starting in real invest. I love those things. It thrills me to hear about the successes that you guys are having with Ken, because he is really the expert here in San Diego and San Diego County. I love it. All right. So we have a little bit more time with Ken. We're going to be taking him right to the top of the hour. To be part of the show, now is the time to call. We got lines open. It's 888-344-1170. So my friends, give us a call. Get online right here with Ken Pecus, 888-344-1170. Okay. So we We've got a couple more things we got to finish up in our conversation. A little bit more. I want Ken to kind of give us his basically kind of a wrap up on what's going on with the market, where should we be looking, and like how to get started. What's kind of an example of the easy way to get started with Ken? How would that go if you gave him a call and met with him? What does it like an initial meeting with Ken? What does that look like so you all will know and be comfortable calling him? His number is 619-977-8419. Don't go away. We'll be right back here on the Word on Wealth with Ken Pecus.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill.
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Live. All right. Welcome to Word on Wealth. We're so happy to have you along. This is the real estate show of the week. It's the only one you need to listen to when you want to figure out how to get into real property, whether you're going to live there or whether you're going to have it as a rental property, whether it's going to be part of your portfolio or you're only. You have got the right place to listen. You got the right guy to call. That's 619-977-8419, Ken Pecus. Ken, we've been talking about micro markets and making sure that the house, I love this part. When you're investing, you're really considering, does a property, does it look like the rest of the properties? Does it look like it's going to fit in, or is it something that's kind of this, kind of a crazy standout house that later on, when you're trying to get back out of it or trying to make your money on it, then it's not going to fit in that category. It's not going to fit in that micro market. So I think those are good things to know and learn about. If you guys want to get a call into Ken, you've got to do it now. 888-344-1170. We're having right to the top of the hour. Okay, Ken. So the next question is, you even mentioned, what about Houston versus Cleveland, or getting out of California, as far as investing? You're a California person, you want to invest in real property out of state. If you want to talk about that and go into that, let's go in that direction.
Yeah, we'll go there. Well, a couple things. Before we went on break, you said, "How's the market?" One thing I forgot to say at the top of the hour is
Oh, yeah.
there was a pretty big business announcement this morning. Maybe it was last night, and that was, the nation's largest bank, Bank of America, has officially taken recession out of its forecast. So Bank of America has now removed the threat of a recession in their forecast, and they're the first large bank. And we've been talking about this for weeks now, that the numbers don't, it seems to make sense that this is going to come into a soft landing. And I think this is one validation, one very big validation that might be possible. Nothing is guaranteed, but the reason I bring that up is because that's looking at a national picture, right? And so there's people here. I have I have a substantial number of clients and friends that have invested out of state. Mm-hmm. So because the same kind of mindset works. So I'm investing out of state sometimes is very important because you can invest easier sometimes in some of the other cities because of the cash position.
Okay.
And so that's an important aspect. And so my advice to people is, hey, if you have money to invest and you can't quite make it into San Diego, as much as I want to sell you a property, that shouldn't hold you back from jumping into investment. So you start looking at out of state and you go, wow, I could buy this or I could buy this, and I only need this much money because that duplex is $150,000 or that quad is $300,000. It comes up to the question, where should I go, right? So mm-hmm. I think something that people should do. So I have some generalized guidelines because, first of all, the number one guideline is find a really competent agent in one of these other places that you're considering. Number one. Number two, if you don't know one or you don't have a connection, call somebody like myself or whatever, because we have our referral sources. I have a huge, like EXP. EXP has 89,000 agents in the company wide, and we have an awesome way to figure out other agents. And for a lot of clients, just in the last year, I've vetted out agents in other cities, calling them, talking to them, and not just with EXP, but with every brand, just to find the best agent. So that's something, that's number one goal. But in general, let's say you want to buy somewhere. I have some basic things I want people to just kind of follow. Number one, don't go into a city or into a place that you're banking on something to happen. Like, for instance, I'm just picking a name out of the blue, Omaha, Nebraska. And I heard, now I know Warren Buffett's there, but I heard Facebook is opening up a whole new center there, and it's going to be a distribution center or a work center, and they're going to be employing 4,000 people or whatever. And so I'm going to buy there because that employment is going to be awesome and whatever. So first recommendation is don't do anything based on what might happen. Okay. If you're investing, especially if you're investing at the beginning, especially if this is your money, make sure you're investing in places that are already established for the property you're buying. And what I mean by that is, so you look at the employment. You don't want to go to a city or a state that is kind of bent to one industry. You want a much more diversified industry, a diversified employment base.
Yes.
So, and places that have diversified employment bases are usually medium to large cities that have like large hospital complexes. So if you think of Houston, you think of MD Anderson. If you think of, say, Minneapolis, you kind of think of the Mayo Clinic. You think of, Johns Hopkins. You think medical clinics. If you look at that in big cities and in middle-sized cities, have only thrived and gotten as our population has gotten older. Think in terms of where medical research goes on, where that is, and you probably have a very stable employment center. Another thing that's really stable is universities and colleges. There, you can actually maybe even go into the smaller size cities. Like I went to school at Texas A&M, so Gigamatties. We're in the grand metropolis of College Station, Texas, and Bryan. So we call it the Metroplex, the Bryan College Station Metroplex.
Mhm.
But that university is one of the largest universities in the country. That employment, and it's always getting bigger. That employment driver is crazy. The number of kids going there now exceeds 50,000 between undergrad and grad. So when you go into the density of a huge university, such as University of Michigan, College, Texas A&M, University of Florida, Gainesville, Ohio State, BYU, into Provo, Utah, you're talking about an employment base that you feel pretty strong and a university base that's probably going to need roofs over their heads. So you kind of think in terms of those kind of situations, as opposed to manufacturing plants that if a large corporation like a Pfizer plant or something, whatever, a plant that has huge employment, that with the change of CEO or a direction or a patent expiring, you could, or like the cars, when people went down from the steel belt to the rust belt, right? I mean, that thing. That's why coastal property and coastal cities have always been so much more diverse than some of the other manufacturing cities. So that part is a really important thing to keep in mind.
Interesting.
Geographical.
So it's kind of like,
things like that.
yeah, it's so the whole thing, it's like I was saying kind of at the beginning of the show, is like when you're investing, it really, investing in real property, investing in the financial markets, either way, you have to really have this really careful analysis on what your purpose is. When I sometimes hear somebody, the last pocket, available of underpriced properties is in, this small sub neighborhood of Austin, Texas. And it's the last underpriced pocket in the United States. And I had, I'm talking to somebody that says, yeah, so I put, $185,000 into a property there and we financed 300. And so we have this multiplex. And then I talk to them, how's that going? They go, oh, well, it's still the last underpriced pocket there. And I've been there for 6 years. And I guess that wasn't a good buy. So it's like, you have to figure out what you're doing and you have to be familiar with it. That's why I have a lot of clients that inherit money and they don't know what they're doing. And it's a really scary prospect. When you don't have money, you don't have to really worry. I mean, nobody wants to take advantage of you when you don't have any money. Nobody's, tracking you down saying, hey, I've got great things to do with all that money you just inherited. It's like, if you don't have a lot of money, you don't think about these type of things. And now I have a lot of clients that they inherit money, or they come into some money, or they retire and they have a big retirement account and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. And that's why we are talking about this, because you don't want to get pulled into these funky deals. And I just, the stuff that you're talking about, Ken, these are things that you have acquired over decades of experience. And the fact that you're sharing them, it's almost like, oh, well, Ken, wait a minute. Aren't these like inside secrets? It's like, well, yeah, but that's what we do. We share and we provide people the opportunities so that they can make their money, make their living, because that's what you do. So this is really great stuff to talk. So I have my little Ken's criteria list that I'm keeping every time we have our shows and we get to pick your brain. Go for it. So
1 minute.
I've got about 1 minute for you to wrap up. So give us about a 45-second, the San Diego real estate wrap up by Ken Pecus, like why buy, why sell here in San Diego.
We're just never going to fail in San Diego. There's only so much limited coastline. There's only a few places in the world that you can go from the mountains to the water in less than an hour and a half. And people keep having babies. That means the population keeps growing up. That means we need more. We need more housing. And as long as we need more housing, we have continuous demand. And so buy San Diego and invest in San Diego. I couldn't say it better than that. It's just San Diego is America's finest city.
Bottom line, you said it, and you heard it right here on Word on Wealth. Ken, thank you so much for being a part in the show and being with us on Wednesdays. That's Ken Pecus. Guys, write this number down, 619-977-8419. Ken, have a great rest of your week. Everybody, I'll talk to you tomorrow with Anthony Wright right here on the Word on Wealth.
You do too, Gary. Bye-bye.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995. With financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the views of Salem Media Group or its sponsors.